Hey friends, hi, Doc South here. Yeah, you hear my yeah. I'm kind of getting like that old prospector in the old movies, yeah, the old westerns. Well, Roy, I don't know. Yeah, concerned varmints up and told our mule. I don't get it. I do. Yeah, it's evidently I did a food drive back on, that would have been Wednesday. Yeah, the day before Thanksgiving, right? Yeah, right? Yeah. And oh my gosh, yeah, I blew my voice out bad. Well, it was outdoors. Yeah, and I was kind of in a shady spot. It was windy and cold, and I did an awful lot of talking, getting people interested in donating bags of food to the needy before Thanksgiving. And oh, wow, I'll tell you. But that's all right. It was worth it. It was worth it. My voice will heal. It always does. And so that's why I didn't get a Millie's itinerary in the last couple of days. It was just, yeah, you wouldn't have been able to understand it. It would have sounded like, I don't know, a bulldozer dragging a house trailer across a blacktop parking lot. Yeah, it's just, yeah, and with the family still in the trailer. Yeah, yeah, it wouldn't have worked. Wouldn't have worked. So, oh yeah, but I think I might be able to get another episode of Millie's itinerary in for you. Okay. Well, here we go. Millie's itinerary, 8:47 a.m., part 1. Okay. Millie was standing in the living room barking for me to hurry up with that breakfast. At the same time, she was wagging her tail full tilt and striking that pose all dogs, large or small, use when they're happy. You know the pose. Their rump is in the air while their chest touches the floor. Right? Yeah, I've even seen Great Danes do this. Yeah, it's kind of cool. The forelegs are out flat. Their eyes are bright and open as wide as possible. Dogs this happy arch their head high as their whole rump rocks back and forth. A metronome would have a difficult time, even at high speed, to keep up with their tail's rhythmic beat. You see this pose a lot in dog food commercials, right? Yeah. Well, Millie was in this pose. It was curtains for any flying insect that got within reach of that tail of hers. It was way too early in the morning for her high decibel barking, I can tell you that. I thank God that I don't drink anymore and therefore didn't have to face that morning enthusiasm spasm with a deadly hangover. About all I could do was to stay calm and wait for the storm to pass. Staring at my furry little girl, I suddenly had the realization that I'd seen this kind of craziness before, besides yesterday at breakfast time. Somewhere in my past, something like this moment happened long ago. Just where, when, or how was forming in my cranium. The present was getting fuzzy as I stared at Millie, and she was fading away as memories reached in and took me back to earlier days. The noise of the barking was the last to disappear into the swirling fog and confetti. Soon I was in another room. It was a room from long ago. I was back at my granddad's house, granddad and grandma's house, down in Elizabeth, New Jersey. I was in the front door parlor of the home he and grandma lived in in Elizabeth, back in the day, right there on Summit Road. Looking through the parlor window, I could see old cars out on Summit Road. Old cars. There wasn't a Subaru in sight. Craning my neck, I could see the calendar hanging in its usual spot near the door to the kitchen. According to the calendar, it was 1950. Granddad was at the bottom of the stairs leading up to the second floor. He was sitting on the parlor landing with his fanny on the very bottom step. This little boy was also at the bottom of the steps, yelling his fool head off and saying words to the effect of, "Let's do it again!" That little guy was me. I looked to be about 4 years old. I wasn't letting up on poor old Granddad to do it again. Poor old Granddad's laugh. He laughed and grabbed at his back as if it was sore. He agreed to just one more Rump Tee Tump. Then it was time for breakfast. I hollered hooray and ran right past Granddad and up to the top of the steps. He chased after me trying to snatch my ankles, but I was too fast for him and beat him to the top. I danced around on the top of the landing in front of the bathroom. Granddad got to the top of the staircase and turned himself around so he could plant his fanny on the very top step. and at the very top step. With that, I flung my arms over Granddad's shoulders as he grabbed my wrists and told me to hang on tight. I then wrapped my legs around his belly and hollered, "Let's go! Yeah!" I may have given poor old Granddad a light kick in the side with my heel. I'd seen the Lone Ranger do that with Silver, so that ensured a nice bolting jolt out of the gate. Without saying a word, Granddad leaned forward as far as he could. 1 inch further over, and we'd have both tumbled down the staircase, something awful. That was the best part of the ride. Granddad always knew to only go so far and then lean backwards quite a bit as he put his feet squarely on the next step down, followed by plopping his fanny on the next step, the step where his feet once were. All the while we hollered Rump Tee Tump in rhythm to the beat as loud as we could. We descended the staircase this way, one step at a time, until we got about 3 steps from the bottom, at which point Granddad would bounce his poor fanny down the steps to the first floor landing as I hung on to his neck as hard as I could. My first words to Granddad once we hit bottom were always, "Again, again!" He just groaned and nursed his poor sore rump and back. God, I loved that game. I'm kind of sure that he did too. Anyway, there you go. Again, this is all part of Millie's itinerary. You'll see what I'm driving at when we get to the next segment of this particular episode of Millie's itinerary. Okay, friends, thank you. God bless.